On Memorial Day, we honor our fallen heroes with deep gratitude. Their sacrifice ensures our freedom. A raw wound opened in the festive air. A man, his navy jacket frayed, stood at the auditorium's edge, clutching a worn note scrawled in his daughter's hand. "Papa, I need you in the front row." The usher's voice sliced through Crestview College's graduation morning buzz. "Sir, this is family only. Move, or security hauls you out." His boots, scuffed from battles long past, held firm. He didn't argue, just stood, eyes steady, note trembling. They saw a nobody, but 5 Marines in the 6th row, silent, knew his truth, their gazes like embers ready to flare. Let's peel back this moment. Dawn painted Crestview's Virginia Hills gold, the campus glowing with promise. Sarah Hensley pulled into the faculty lot, her heart swelling for her daughter, Emily, named in the program. Honor roll. The sky shimmered, a breeze carried hope, and the morning pulsed with dreams. Sarah smoothed her scarf, fingers tracing the program's crisp edges. She'd read Emily's name countless times, each glance a spark of pride lodging in her chest, warm and heavy. The auditorium hummed. Families waved signs, balloons danced, cameras flashed like fireflies. Sarah followed an usher to her seat, 6th row, center right, her eyes sweeping the stage where Emily would soon shine. But a figure snagged her gaze. He entered through a side door, not the grand archway. Alone, deliberate, his navy jacket hung loose, buttons dulled by time, jeans faded, boots worn to leather's end. His stillness clashed with the crowd's chatter, a rock in a rushing river. Sarah leaned forward, curious, her program forgotten. He moved, slow and sure, toward the roped-off front rows, silver placards gleaming. Distinguished guests. The note, Sarah sensed, was his guide, its blue ink a daughter's plea. But an usher, headset flashing, blocked him. "Sir, this section's reserved. Step back." Her clipboard was a wall, her voice cold. He nodded, calm. "My daughter's graduating. I'm listed." She didn't check, just pointed rearward. "Clear out or security's called." Sarah's chest tightened, empathy, anger, a mother's instinct flaring. He stepped back, one pace, dignity intact, note still in hand. 5 Marines in the 6th row stirred, their eyes locked on him, sharp as blades. Sarah caught their glance, a silent vow forming. The crowd, lost in joy, missed the drama, but she didn't. The man stood by the exit's red glow, note his anchor, waiting for his daughter's moment. Sarah's pride for Emily mingled with a spark for him. Who was he? Why did the Marines watch like sentinels? The stage lights flared, the ceremony loomed, but the note, its unseen words, promised a story that would shake this room to its core. The auditorium pulsed with life, a tapestry of laughter and light. Sarah Hensley sank into her 6th row seat, the program's weight grounding her pride for Emily, her daughter, soon to cross Crestview's crimson-draped stage. The college, nestled in Virginia's rolling hills, gleamed under dawn's golden brush, its stone arches framing a day of triumph. Families bustled, parents adjusted ties, siblings clutched balloons, cameras snapped like summer crickets. Sarah's eyes danced across the crowd, soaking in their joy, her heart full of Emily's late-night studies, her name inked in the program. Honor roll. But a shadow drew her gaze. By the side door, beneath the exit sign's red haze, stood a man. His navy jacket faded, boots scuffed to leather's end. He didn't move, didn't fidget, just waited, eyes fixed on the stage where his daughter would walk. Sarah tilted her head, curious. The note in his pocket, she imagined, was his tether, its words a daughter's heart scrawled in blue ink. She pictured him at dawn, unfolding it, tracing Papa, front row, steeling himself for this moment, his pride a mirror to her own. The crowd's chatter swelled, a river of voices, but he was an island, untouched. Sarah's mind wandered to Emily's graduation cap, the hug they'd shared at breakfast, pride swelling like a tide. Did this man feel that too, only to be pushed aside? The 5 Marines in the 6th row sat straighter, their silence heavy, their eyes on him like hawks. Sarah caught their tension, her pulse quickening. They knew him, comrades, perhaps, guarding a secret the room couldn't yet grasp. The ceremony's opening notes rang out, a trumpet's call slicing the noise. Graduates filed in, caps tilted, gowns flowing, the stage a beacon of dreams. Sarah's heart lifted, but her gaze lingered on the man. He hadn't moved, hands clasped, the note's promise burning in his pocket. She pictured him years ago, teaching his daughter to ride a bike, his rough hands steady, whispering, "Keep going." That strength held him now, against the usher's scorn. The Marine's eyes said it too. Something was coming, a truth tied to that note. The lights dimmed, the crowd settled, but tension simmered by the exit. Sarah's program crumpled in her grip, her pride for Emily now laced with empathy for this stranger. The note, unseen but vivid, was more than paper. It was a vow, a bridge between father and daughter. The stage glowed, the ceremony began, but the real story unfolded in the shadows, where a man stood, note in hand, waiting for his moment. Sarah sensed it. This morning wasn't just about degrees. It was about a truth, a note, and a reckoning ready to break free. He was no grand figure, no polished guest. He was stone quiet, carved from grit and time. The man, his navy jacket a faded banner, stood by the auditorium's edge, unnoticed by the festive throng. Sarah Hensley watched, her curiosity sharpening like a blade. His face, lined like weathered oak, held no anger, only patience. His boots, worn to a dull sheen, carried the dust of distant wars. The note in his pocket. Sarah couldn't see it, but she felt its weight, a daughter's plea pulling him to Crestview's stage. He moved, not with the crowd's eager shuffle, but with a soldier's measured tread, each step deliberate, guided by the note's promise. The front rows beckoned, their silver placards glinting. Distinguished guests. Sarah's breath caught. He didn't match the tailored suits, the gleaming smiles, but he belonged, her gut screamed it. His hands, rough and steady, stayed clasped behind him, as if holding something heavier than paper. The note, she imagined, whispered, "Papa, front row." Its blue ink a map drawn by a hand he'd raised. The crowd buzzed, oblivious, their laughter a distant hum. But the 5 Marines in the 6th row saw him, their eyes tracking like hawks. Sarah noticed their stillness, their civilian clothes hiding something fierce. Comrades? Guardians? She pictured the man years ago, steadying his daughter's bike, his voice low. "Keep going, Clara." That strength held him now, note in hand, against the room's blindness. The Marine's silence was a vow, their gaze a bridge to a truth yet unseen. He reached the roped-off section, boots pausing on the polished floor. The note, Sarah sensed, was his shield, its words a daughter's heart. But an usher, headset gleaming, blocked him. "Sir, this is family only." Her voice was cold, her clipboard a fortress. He nodded, calm as stone. "My daughter invited me." Check the list. She didn't, her finger jabbing rearward. "Step back." Sarah's pulse spiked, anger flaring. The man retreated, one pace, no more, his dignity a wall they couldn't crack. The note held strong, its promise unbroken. The Marines stirred, a glance passing between them, quick, sharp. Sarah's chest ached, empathy flooding her. The note wasn't just paper. It was a bond, a vow, a truth the usher couldn't see. The crowd's chatter rolled on, but the tension by the exit simmered, a storm gathering. Sarah's mind raced to her own father, his quiet strength, his unspoken burdens. This man was cut from that cloth, note in pocket, standing for his daughter. The Marine's eyes said it too, this wasn't over. The note, that fragile thread, tied father, daughter, and comrades to a moment ready to ignite. Tension coiled like a spring, sharp and taut. The usher's words, "Step back or security escorts you," hung heavy, a challenge to the man's quiet resolve. He stood by the exit, navy jacket loose on his frame, the note's edges soft from countless readings. Sarah Hensley's eyes flicked between him and the two security guards looming nearby, their radios crackling like distant thunder. The crowd, lost in pre-ceremony chatter, missed the drama unfolding in the shadows. But Sarah didn't, nor did the 5 Marines, their gazes burning like embers. The man's posture stayed firm, boots planted, hands behind him. "My daughter's graduating," he said, voice low, steady as stone. "I'm staying." The usher's clipboard didn't budge, her eyes cold. "Back of the room, sir." Sarah's chest ached. Empathy, anger, a mother's shame not her own. The note, she pictured, was his proof, its blue ink screaming, "Papa, front row." Why wouldn't they check it? The guards stepped closer, hands on belts, their boots thudding, ready to drag him out. The note's promise held him fast. Sarah leaned forward, her program crumpling in her grip, her pride for Emily now laced with indignation. The man didn't argue, didn't shout. He stepped back, one pace, no more, his dignity a fortress. The Marines exchanged glances, quick, silent, their civilian clothes hiding a storm. One, broad-shouldered with a cropped beard, shifted, his jaw tight. Sarah sensed their restraint, like a dam holding back a flood. The note, unseen but vivid, was the spark, tying this moment to a truth they couldn't yet name. The auditorium lights dimmed, the ceremony's start imminent. The crowd settled, their laughter fading, unaware of the man by the exit, his silhouette stark against the red glow. Sarah's mind raced to her own father, his quiet sacrifices, his pride in her milestones. This man, note in hand, was here for that same pride, yet they pushed him aside. The usher's dismissal replayed, cold, unyielding. The note, she knew, was more than paper. It was a daughter's love, a vow they were trampling. The guards hovered, their radios hissing. Sarah's pulse hammered, her fingers twitching to act, to shout, "Check the note!" But doubt held her. Would it matter? The Marine's eyes said it would. Their silence wasn't passive. It was coiled, ready to spring. The note, that fragile thread, tied father to daughter, comrades to leader, and now Sarah to this unfolding truth. The stage lights flared, graduates filed in, but the tension by the exit simmered, a quiet storm brewing. Sarah knew this man wasn't leaving, not until his daughter walked, and not until the room saw the note's power. The ceremony roared to life, a wave of sound and light. A voice boomed, "Welcome, families and guests." Applause erupted, cameras flashed, but Sarah Hensley's focus stayed on the man by the exit. His navy jacket caught the dim light, the note hidden in his pocket, its words, "Papa, front row." A silent vow. The stage glowed, graduates in crisp gowns, caps tilted, but the real story unfolded in the shadows, where a man stood, waiting for his daughter's moment. He stood, chin high, eyes locked on the stage where his daughter would walk. Sarah imagined him at dawn, unfolding the note, tracing its blue ink, fueling his resolve against the usher's scorn. The 5 Marines in the 6th row hadn't relaxed, their silence louder than the crowd's claps. The dean's voice droned, joking about tuition, drawing laughs. Sarah didn't laugh, nor did the man, nor the Marines. The usher's dismissal lingered, a wound unhealed, the note's promise burning brighter. Sarah's mind flashed to Emily, her daughter, soon to cross the stage. She'd hugged her that morning, pride swelling like a tide. Did this man feel that too, only to be cast aside? The usher passed him again, whispering to a staffer, "He's still there, probably uninvited." Sarah's throat tightened. Uninvited? That note said otherwise. The staffer nodded to security, their eyes on the man. "Keep watch," she muttered. Sarah's pulse spiked, shame. Not hers, but the room's, clinging like damp air. The ceremony rolled on, names called, applause swelling. But the man's stillness held Sarah captive. He wasn't here to disrupt, he was here to witness. She pictured him years ago, kneeling by his daughter's bedside, whispering, "Stand tall, Clara." That strength held him now, note in hand, against the room's blindness. The Marines' gazes burned, their silence a gathering storm. The note, she sensed, was more than paper. It was a bridge, a vow, a truth the room couldn't ignore much longer. The stage lights flared, graduates smiled, but the tension by the exit simmered. Sarah's program crumpled, her pride for Emily now tied to this stranger's quiet fight. The usher's words echoed cold, dismissive. The note, unseen but vivid, was his anchor, its words a daughter's heart. The Marine's eyes said it too. Something was coming, a reckoning tied to that note. Sarah's fingers twitched, wanting to act, to speak. The crowd clapped, oblivious, but the real drama brewed in the shadows, where a man stood, note in hand, waiting for his daughter's moment, and his own. The note's promise pulsed, ready to break the room's heart open. The student speaker, the dean's son, took the podium, his suit crisp, voice polished. Sarah Hensley listened, but her eyes stayed on the man by the exit, his navy jacket a quiet flag. The speaker thanked faculty, parents, then smirked, and to the presentable families up front, you show Crestview's values. Laughter rippled, light but sharp, a barb aimed at the man, his note the only claim to those rows. Sarah's stomach twisted, anger flaring. The note, she imagined, burned in his pocket, its words, Papa, front row, a shield against the mockery. The man didn't react, his gaze fixed on the stage, note still in hand. But the 5 Marines in the 6th row did. One, with a scar above his brow, leaned forward, muttering, "That was for him." The others nodded, eyes narrowing, their civilian clothes hiding a storm. Sarah caught their exchange, her heart racing. The note, unseen but vivid, was his anchor, its blue ink a daughter's pride. The crowd's laughter faded, but the sting lingered, a quiet wound cutting deeper than the speaker knew. Sarah glanced at the front rows, their tailored suits and gleaming smiles. They hadn't felt the barb, hadn't seen the man. But she did, and the Marines did. Their silence wasn't passive. It was coiled, ready to spring. She pictured the man years ago, teaching his daughter to ride a bike, his rough hands steady, whispering, "Keep going, Clara." That strength held him now, note in hand, against the room's scorn. The speaker droned on, but Sarah's mind replayed his entrance, the note's unseen power. The Marine's tension rippled through her, their eyes locked on the man. The note, she sensed, was more than paper. It was a vow, tying father to daughter, comrades to leader. The crowd's laughter, their blindness, was a wall, but the note was a crack, letting truth seep through. Sarah's chest ached, her pride for Emily now laced with empathy for this stranger. The speaker stepped down, applause fading, but the Marine's gaze held firm, a promise forming in their silence. The stage lights dimmed, the ceremony rolled on, but the tension by the exit simmered. Sarah's program crumpled, her fingers trembling. The note's words, "Papa, front row," echoed in her mind, a daughter's heart against the room's dismissal. The Marine's eyes said it too, this wasn't over. The crowd clapped, oblivious, but the real drama brewed in the shadows, where a man stood, note in hand, waiting for his moment. The note, that fragile thread, tied them all, father, daughter, comrades, to a truth creeping closer to the light, ready to shatter the room's ignorance with its quiet power. Sarah Hensley's certainty grew, sharp as a blade. The man by the exit, his navy jacket frayed, didn't belong in the shadows. The note in his pocket, its blue ink a daughter's plea, marked him for the front row. She watched him, his stillness a rebuke to the room's noise, his boots scuffed but steady. The 5 Marines' gazes, fierce and unwavering, confirmed it. A mistake had been made, and it was big. Sarah's program crumpled in her hands, her pride for Emily now woven with empathy for this stranger. She pictured Emily's graduation, the joy of seeing her shine. This man, she knew, felt that too. His note proof of a bond stronger than the usher's clipboard. Why hadn't they checked it? The Marine's silence screamed loyalty, their eyes tracing the man like he was their North Star. Sarah's mind flashed to her own father, a quiet man who'd carried burdens unspoken, his pride in her a steady flame. This man was cut from that cloth, note in hand, standing for his daughter against the room's blindness. The ceremony hummed, names called, applause swelling. But Sarah's focus stayed on the man, the note, the Marines. She wanted to stand, to shout, "Check the list!" But doubt held her. Would it matter? The usher's dismissal, the speaker's jab, the guard's looming presence. They'd built a wall around him. Yet the note, that fragile thread, held strong. Its words, "Papa, front row." A vow tying this moment to a truth the room couldn't ignore much longer. Sarah's chest ached, not just for him, but for the pride he carried unseen. She pictured him years ago, kneeling by his daughter's bedside, whispering, "Stand tall, Clara." That strength held him now, note in hand, against the room's scorn. The Marines' tension pulsed, their silence a promise of action. Sarah's throat tightened, her pride for Emily now a mirror to this man's quiet fight. The note, she sensed, was a beacon, its blue ink guiding him through this storm. The stage lights flared, graduates smiled, but the real drama brewed by the exit, where a man stood, waiting for his daughter's moment. Sarah's fingers twitched, her heart urging her to act. The Marine's eyes said it too. Something was coming, a reckoning tied to that note. The crowd clapped, oblivious, but the tension simmered, a storm gathering. Sarah's program fell, her focus absolute. The note, unseen but vivid, was more than paper. It was a daughter's love, a father's duty, a truth ready to break free. The man wasn't leaving, not until his daughter walked, and not until the room saw him for who he was. The note's promise pulsed, ready to ignite the room's heart. The air thickened, heavy with intent. Security approached the man again, their boots thudding on the auditorium floor like distant drums. "Sir, come with us," one said, hand on his radio, voice sharp. The man, navy jacket loose, stood firm, the note's weight in his pocket. "I'm here for my daughter," he said, low, unshaken. "I'm not moving." Sarah Hensley's pulse hammered, her program forgotten. The note, she pictured, was his shield, its blue ink screaming, "Papa, front row." A daughter's vow they refused to hear. The guard stiffened, insisting, "You're not on the list." The man shook his head, calm but ironclad. "Check it." They didn't. The usher hovered, her clipboard useless, her eyes cold. Sarah leaned forward, indignation flaring. The crowd, lost in the ceremony's rhythm, missed the quiet battle unfolding. But the 5 Marines didn't, their eyes burning, their silence a storm gathering. Sarah's throat tightened. Why wouldn't they listen? The note was proof, a truth they dismissed like dust. Sarah glanced at the administrator beside her, whispering, "Who is he?" The woman shrugged, indifferent. "Some extra who wandered in." Extra? The word stung sharp as a slap. Sarah saw him clearly. His lined face, his tilted shoulder bearing an old wound, the note his only armor. He'd come for this, prepared to stand through their scorn. She pictured him at dawn, tracing the note's words, steeling himself for his daughter's day. The second guard touched his elbow, urging him toward the exit, his radio hissing. The man reached into his jacket, pulling out the note, its edges worn from countless touches. He held it out not as a weapon but a plea. "My daughter wrote this," he said, soft but firm. The guard glanced at it, unmoved. No pass, no seat. Sarah's anger flared, her hands trembling. The note's words, unseen but vivid, screamed justice. She wanted to shout, to act, but doubt held her. The Marines stirred, their chairs creaking, their eyes like blades. The note, that fragile thread, was the spark, tying this moment to a truth breaking free. The crowd clapped, oblivious, but the tension by the exit simmered. Sarah's mind raced to her own father, his quiet pride in her milestones. This man, note in hand, was here for that same pride, yet they pushed him aside. The guards hovered, their authority a wall. The note, she knew, was more than paper. It was a daughter's love, a father's duty. The Marine's silence pulsed, a promise of action. The stage lights flared, but the real drama brewed in the shadows, where a man stood, note in hand, waiting for his moment. The note's promise burned, ready to ignite. The room shifted, air crackling like before a storm. 5 chairs scraped back, deliberate, unified. The Marines stood, their civilian clothes hiding nothing now, their presence a wall of iron. Sarah Hensley's heart leapt, her program falling. The man by the exit, note in hand, faced the guards, his navy jacket a quiet flag. The lead Marine, tall with a scarred jaw, stepped forward, boots echoing on the polished floor. The crowd's chatter faded, eyes turning, whispers rippling. The note, Sarah sensed, was the thread pulling this moment taut. The Marine reached into his pocket, pulling out a badge, gold-winged, a trident glinting under the auditorium's lights. Sarah squinted, her breath catching. United States Marine Corps. The guards froze, the usher's clipboard trembling in her hands. The Marine's voice, low but thunderous, filled the space. This man stays. He led us through fire. He doesn't leave. For more Marines joined him, their badges gleaming, their steps unified. Sarah stood, her eyes on the man, the note still in his hand, its words, Papa, front row. A vow now backed by iron. The crowd stirred, gasps whispering through the rows. The note, unseen but vivid, seemed to glow, its blue ink a daughter's pride against the room's earlier scorn. The Marines didn't flank him, didn't guard him. They stood behind, as if he'd always led. Sarah's mind raced. Who was he? A leader, a hero, the note his anchor. The guards stepped back, their authority crumbling like ash. The usher's eyes widened, her dismissal now a mistake laid bare. The note had sparked this, and the truth was rising, unstoppable. Sarah's chest swelled, not just for the man, but for the loyalty pulsing through the Marines. She pictured them years ago, following him through smoke, his voice steady, keep going. That strength held him now, note in hand, against the room's blindness. The auditorium, once blind, now saw him, its heart shifting. The note, that fragile thread, tied father, daughter, and comrades to this moment. The ceremony paused, the stage dimmed, but the real light shone by the exit, where a man stood, waiting for his daughter's moment. The Marines' badges caught the light, their silence louder than any shout. Sarah's throat tightened, her pride for Emily now woven with awe for this stranger. The note, she knew, was more than paper. It was a vow, a truth breaking free. The crowd's whispers grew, the tension peaking. The man didn't gloat, didn't speak. He just stood, note in hand, his dignity a fire the room couldn't ignore. The note's promise pulsed, ready to shatter the room's ignorance, and Sarah knew. This was the turning point, the moment truth would rise. A voice cut through, old but steady, from the auditorium's left. An officer stood, his chest gleaming with medals under a gray coat, his eyes fixed on the man by the exit. I know him, he said, voice thick with memory. Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Tate, 2nd Recon Battalion, retired. Sarah Hensley's breath hitched, her program forgotten. Marcus, his navy jacket a quiet testament, the note in his pocket, stood still, eyes on the stage. The officer continued. In 2008, Operation Dust Storm, Helmand. I saw Marcus run into a burning outpost, pulling out 6 Marines under fire. He didn't wait. He just went. Silence fell, heavy as stone, the crowd's chatter dying. Marcus didn't move, his gaze steady, the note his anchor. The officer's voice cracked, raw with awe. He carried them out, one by one, bullets flying. Only he walked away, scars and all. Sarah's eyes burned, picturing Marcus, younger, smoke choking him, the note's future words already in his heart. The 5 Marines nodded, their badges still out, their loyalty a living vow. The note, she sensed, was more than paper. It was a daughter's pride, a bridge to this moment. Sarah saw him anew, his lined face, his tilted shoulder bearing an old wound, the note's worn edges soft from countless touches. He wasn't just a father, he was a hero unsung until now. The crowd's silence was reverence, not apathy. Their eyes locked on him. The note, she realized, wasn't just a request. It was a vow, tying father to daughter, comrades to leader. The usher, who'd dismissed him, stared at her clipboard, betrayed by her own haste. The guards faded back, their radios silent, their authority dust. The officer sat, his medals clinking softly. Sarah's mind flashed to her own father, his quiet strength, his pride in her milestones. Marcus was that and more, the note his proof of love and duty. She pictured him years ago, steadying his daughter's bike, whispering, "Keep going, Clara." That strength held him now, note in hand, against the room's earlier scorn. The Marines stood taller, their eyes on him, not the stage, their silence a vow renewed. The note's words, "Papa, front row," had brought him here, and now the room knew why. The crowd's silence deepened, a sanctuary forming. Sarah's throat tightened, her pride for Emily now woven with awe for Marcus's legacy. The note, that fragile thread, tied them all, father, daughter, comrades, crowd, to a truth breaking free. The stage lights dimmed, but the real light shone by the exit, where a man stood, note in hand, his dignity afire. The truth, once hidden, now burned bright, and Sarah knew. This was only the beginning, the moment justice would rise. Movement stirred by the stage, a ripple in the crimson sea. A graduate, cap tilted, gown flowing, stepped forward, her steps quick, hands trembling. Sarah Hensley knew instantly. This was Marcus's daughter, Clara Tate. She reached the podium, eyes searching the crowd, landing on her father by the exit, his navy jacket a quiet flag. The note, Sarah pictured, was his beacon, its blue ink guiding her now. Clara leaned into the mic, voice tight but clear, cutting through the silence. "That's my papa." Every head turned, the crowd's breath held. Clara's gaze locked on Marcus, her words raw, unscripted. He never wanted the spotlight. Every morning he'd say, "Stand tall, Clara. Be someone you'd respect." She paused, breath catching, tears glinting. "I'm proud today, not for this degree, but for him." Sarah's throat tightened, tears welling. Clara stepped down, moving past stunned graduates toward the exit, toward Marcus. The note's words, "Papa, front row," a vow pulling her forward. The crowd watched, frozen, as truth rose. Clara stopped before her father, no hesitation, her gown brushing his boots. In a slow, practiced motion, she saluted, hands steady, eyes fierce with pride. Marcus didn't return it. He stepped forward, pulling her into his arms, their embrace quiet, real, unscripted. The 5 Marines stood straighter, saluting in unison, their badges catching the light, their loyalty a living flame. Sarah blinked fast, the note's power overwhelming. Clara's words echoed, "Stand tall." And Marcus had, through fire, through scorn. For her, the note his anchor. The auditorium froze, a sanctuary of silence, reverence replacing apathy. Clara turned, facing the crowd, her father beside her. The note, Sarah knew, had brought them here, its blue ink a daughter's love against the room's earlier blindness. She pictured Marcus years ago, kneeling by Clara's bedside, whispering, "Keep going." That strength held him now, note in hand, against all odds. The crowd, once blind, now saw Marcus wasn't an extra, but the heart of this day, the note his proof. Sarah's chest swelled, her pride for Emily now woven with awe for Clara's courage. The note, that fragile thread, tied father, daughter, and comrades to this moment, its words a vow fulfilled. The crowd's silence deepened, a battlefield's hush. The Marines' salutes lingered, their eyes on Marcus, not the stage. Sarah's tears fell, her heart full. The note, unseen but vivid, was more than paper. It was a truth breaking free, a daughter's pride rising. The room's heart shifted, ready to right its wrong, and Sarah knew. This moment, sparked by the note, would echo beyond the day. A fire of justice kindled. The auditorium exhaled, its pulse forever changed. Clara led Marcus forward, her hand in his, toward the front rows that once barred him, their boots and gown a quiet rhythm. The crowd parted, not by command, but by instinct, their eyes wide with reverence. Sarah Hensley stood, hands trembling, program forgotten. The note, still in Marcus's pocket, was the thread pulling them through. Its blue ink, Papa, front row. A vow now fulfilled. The usher, who'd dismissed him, stepped aside, clipboard useless, shame her only words. No one stopped them now, the roped-off section opening like a gate. Marcus's boots hit the floor, steady, deliberate, the same rhythm that carried him through fire. Clara stayed close, her gown brushing his navy jacket, her pride a mirror to his quiet strength. Sarah's chest swelled. Justice, quiet but fierce, was rising, sparked by the note's truth. The 5 Marines stood behind, their badges tucked away, their presence a silent vow, their loyalty a flame that lit the room. The crowd, once blind, now saw, their applause waiting to erupt. The ceremony resumed, but its tone was new, humbled. The dean, voice smaller, returned to the podium. "We honor guests of distinction today," he said, pausing, eyes on Marcus. "Some we failed to see." Applause stirred, tentative, then strong, a tide of recognition. Sarah joined in, clapping not just for Marcus, but for the room's awakening. The note, she realized, wasn't just his. It was theirs, a call to see the unseen, to right the wrong. The crowd's earlier laughter, their blindness, was gone, replaced by reverence, raw and real. Marcus sat, second row, Clara beside him, their hands touching. The Marines remained standing, not for seats, but for him, their eyes steady. Sarah saw it clearly. The note had sparked a reckoning, its blue ink a daughter's love against the room's scorn. She pictured Marcus years ago, steadying Clara's bike, whispering, "Keep going." That strength held him now, note in pocket, against all odds. The auditorium, once a stage for pomp, was now a sanctuary for truth. Its heart shifted by a man, a daughter, and a note. The crowd's applause lingered, a promise kept. Sarah's throat tightened, her pride for Emily now woven with awe for Marcus's dignity. Clara's courage, the Marine's loyalty. The note, that fragile thread, had woven a tapestry of honor, tying father, daughter, and comrades to this moment. The stage lights dimmed, but the real light shone in the front row, where Marcus sat, note in hand, his truth undeniable. The room's transformation was complete. A community awakened, ready to honor the unsung, and Sarah knew this moment, sparked by the note, would burn bright forever. The silence broke, soft at first, a single pair of hands clapping, slow, steady, then another, then a flood, a tide of sound swelling through the auditorium. Sarah Hensley clapped, tears streaking her cheeks, her program forgotten. Marcus Tate sat in the front row, his navy jacket a quiet crown, the note tucked close to his heart, its blue ink, Papa, front row, a vow fulfilled. The crowd's applause wasn't for the graduates, not for the dean. It was for him, the man they'd nearly cast out, now the heart of this day. The usher, who'd barred him, stared at the floor, her clipboard trembling, shame her only words. She slipped aside as Marcus had passed, her dismissal a mistake laid bare. Sarah's eyes followed him, his steady walk replaying in her mind, the note his guide. The dean's voice faltered, his earlier jests forgotten. "We failed to recognize," he said, eyes on Marcus, and the applause roared louder, a collective apology, raw and unscripted. The note, she sensed, was more than paper. It was a truth breaking free, a daughter's pride rising. Clara sat beside her father, her hand on his, her gown a quiet contrast to his faded jacket. The 5 Marines stood, their silence louder than the crowd's sound. their badges tucked away, their loyalty a living flame. Sarah pictured the note, its words a daughter's love, now fulfilled, not by force, but by truth's weight. The crowd's awakening was raw, a room of strangers united by one man's dignity, one note's power. Sarah's pride for Emily burned brighter, mirrored in Marcus's quiet strength, Clara's courage. Marcus didn't smile, didn't bask in the moment. He unfolded the note, read it once more, his fingers tracing the blue ink, then tucked it away, close to his chest. The applause faded, but its weight lingered, a promise kept, a wrong righted. Sarah's heart swelled. Not just for Marcus, but for the room, for the note, for the truth that rose when all seemed lost. She pictured him years ago, whispering to Clara, "Stand tall." His strength now a beacon for them all. The note had carried him here, through scorn to honor. The ceremony continued, but the real story was done. Sealed in that front row seat, the note's promise fulfilled. Sarah's throat tightened, her clapping hands a vow to remember. The Marine's eyes stayed on Marcus, their silence a salute. The note, that fragile thread, tied father, daughter, and comrades to this moment. Its blue ink a fire that lit the room. The crowd's applause was more than sound. It was justice, reverence, a community awakened. Sarah knew, this moment, sparked by the note, would echo beyond the day, a truth that refused to fade. The crowd thinned, balloons drooping, programs littering seats like fallen leaves. Sarah Hensley stayed, her eyes on Marcus Tate, his navy jacket still, the note his quiet anchor. Students passed his seat, some pausing to shake his hand, their grips firm, respectful. Others touched his shoulder, a silent thank you, their eyes bright with awe. A graduate, tears smudging her makeup, saluted him, whispering, "Thank you for carrying them." Marcus nodded, his face steady. The note in his pocket a vow fulfilled, its blue ink, Papa, front row. A fire still burning. One Marine, the youngest, stepped forward, his boots soft on the polished floor. He pressed a coin into Marcus's hand, its weight heavy with meaning. A challenge coin, rare, earned. Sarah recognized it, her throat tightening. Marcus turned it over, the Marine emblem on one side, words etched on the other. The silent lead the fiercest battles. He closed his hand, his shoulders easing, as if a burden shared, not lifted. The note, Sarah knew, had brought this too. Comrades, respect, a daughter's pride, its blue ink tying them all. Sarah pictured Marcus years ago, steadying Clara's bike, his voice low, "Keep going." That strength held him now, note in pocket, coin in hand, against the room's earlier scorn. Students kept coming, their gestures quiet, unscripted, no cameras, no speeches, just truth, raw and real. A young man, Cap Askew, paused, his handshake lingering, his eyes saying what words couldn't. Sarah's pride for Emily mingled with awe for Marcus's legacy. The note a thread weaving a tapestry of honor. Its words a vow kept against all odds. The janitors swept, lights dimmed, but Sarah lingered, watching Marcus and Clara rise, the Marines close behind, their steps a quiet rhythm. The coin gleamed, the note unseen but ever present, its blue ink a daughter's love. This wasn't about applause. It was about a father, a daughter, a truth that refused to fade. Sarah's heart swelled, her tears falling, the raw gratitude cutting deep. The note, she sensed, had changed this day, and maybe her too, its words of fire that lit the room's heart. The auditorium emptied, but its echo lingered. Sarah turned to leave, her heels clicking softly, but paused, glancing back at Marcus, Clara, the Marines. The note, that fragile thread, had sparked a reckoning, tying father to daughter, comrades to leader, crowd to truth. Students' gestures, the coin's weight, the note's promise. They were more than moments. They were a vow to remember. Sarah's pride for Emily now carried Marcus's story, a fire of respect, and she knew. This truth, sparked by the note, would burn bright forever, a legacy of quiet courage. The auditorium stood empty, but its echo roared. Marcus Tate, once pushed to the shadows, sat in the front row, his daughter's note fulfilled, its blue ink, Papa, front row. A vow kept against all odds. The coin in his hand, the applause in his wake. They weren't his goal. He came for Clara, for her pride, for the words she'd scrawled. That note, a fragile thread, wove father, daughter, and comrades into a tapestry of honor, proving dignity outshines scorn, truth cuts through blindness. Sarah Hensley left changed, her pride for Emily now tied to Marcus's quiet courage, a universal fire of hope, resilience, and love. Marcus's journey, from the exit's dim glow to the front row's light, mirrors the courage we all carry, the bonds we hold dear. His note, a daughter's love, calls us to see the unseen, to stand for the overlooked. In a world quick to judge, Marcus stood tall, his silence louder than any shout. Clara's salute, the Marine's loyalty, the crowd's awakening. They show justice, though slow, arrives when hearts open, when truth rises from the fall. We tell these stories to keep courage alive, to honor the silent ones who lead the fiercest battles. And more especially on Memorial Day today, please comment respect, to show respect and gratitude to people like Marcus. He didn't demand a seat. He earned it, through fire, through love, through a note that refused to be ignored. His story, like all we share, binds us to hope, to forgiveness, to the resilience that lifts us from our darkest moments. Daily Narrated Stories is your home for tales that stir the soul, that remind us why we fight, why we love, why we rise. Marcus's note, Clara's pride, the coin's weight. They're a call to remember, to honor, to act.